How's it going, guys? Oddly Unorthodox back again with a bit of a different game today. One not even in the same genre that I normally stick to. So I was able to get on Darker and Darker. That's why I haven't really been uploading a lot the last couple of days, because I really wanted to sort of get into this game, have a feel about it and see what I found. In this video I'm hoping to just give you some sort of beginner tips that I've found, things that I've found work well, what classes I enjoyed, what classes I didn't enjoy. And then just, there should be a little bit of footage just playing in the background, so you just have a look how the game goes. So, as someone coming into the game, and you're going to be asking, is the game going to be for me? Is it something that I enjoy personally? I'm a big strategy fan player myself. Not really a battle royale player. I've played Apex a handful of times at most, and I haven't played any of the others. So, the game is very different. And it can be quite difficult at the start. A description of the game for those that haven't really researched into it and you're looking at it now for the first time is you form a 3-player team. You can also play solo or duo. And the idea is to get as much treasure as possible. Now you can get treasure from looting chests, destroying stuff, the mobs or even enemy players and take theirs. So the things that I found, from there is I got into it, I had a go. It is a little bit non-beginner friendly due to most people will be running around with gear, health pots and stuff like this. It is a very traditional sort of battle royale game in the fact that if you win and you survive, you take them with you. If you lose and you die in there, you drop all your gear. The good thing is you get given basic gear every time that you respawn. Nothing great, but it'll get you by. Depending on the class. That is another part that we'll go into later, the classes. So, you find yourself dumped in this dungeon with, 3 people that you found a party with. Another note on that, the party system, you have to have a level 5 character to join into the party chat rooms. This makes it a little bit difficult because it means you have to level 5 before you can party up with other players. And that is per class, but you can go on one class type that you've got a lower level account and people will still invite you for games, such like that. The community is quite friendly. Now, in the premise of this game, everything hurts. And it's not for the faint-hearted in the fact of most things are going to do a lot of damage if you haven't got a lot of gear on. So, let's talk a bit more about the class system. You've got your traditional archetypes of class in a medieval game. You've got your priest known as the cleric, specialises in healing miracles, has abilities to deal with the undead. All classes have got different abilities, skills that you can put on. So the cleric is really your support party player. They can cast shields, they can buff, they can heal, they are a very good class for a beginner. They can use heavy armour, which will limit how much damage you take. They also carry a shield and a mace to start off with, so you'll have the ability to block, which is quite big in this game. So as a beginner class, I feel like they are a very well adjusted class. The next class I'm going to talk about, which in my opinion is the next good beginner class, is the fighter. The fighter is your traditional sword and board, sword and shield melee player. They can pick up bows to use a little bit of ranged. They wear heavy armour. They can use any other class's weapons. Obviously limiting to that he's not going to get much use out of the magic ones. But in the fact of you can use the two-handed weapons from the berserkers, you can use the daggers, you can use the falchions. You can use swords, maces, axes. He's a pretty much jack of all trades. Now, he's not very efficient at using those weapons. There's a talent you can take that increases your... gives you the ability to use them all, but you deal 10% less damage with weapons that are not native to your class. So, this class can also then specialise in using its abilities to make itself have more damage. So it can go for a dual wield build, or it can invest its sort of skills into tankiness, making it a good tank, can take a lot of damage. The reason I put this class as another beginner-friendly class is because it has healing in its kit. It's only once per sort of game use on an ability which gives you 50% of your max HP back. But there is another ability you can take, which means if you kill an enemy with the ability active, it applies on your next attack. You gain some HP back. So again, this was a real sort of, you look at medieval games and this is the thing that gets on the front cover. It's a traditional sort of way that people see medieval characters. Following up in the mid-tier of classes that I think are a little bit more difficult, I'm going to put the Ranger in there. The Ranger is a class that specialises in bows. It has access to traps, so for you people out there that like to be sneaky and put bear traps indoors, it has access to that. With starter gear, it doesn't start with a melee weapon, just as a heads up, so it is completely ranged until you manage to find one, or if you bring one with you. But they're not that expensive to bring with you, so as soon as you've got a bit more sort of experience in the game, you'll have plenty enough money. And sort of the Ranger, it has healing in its kit, which I think again is a great thing for new players. It's a real nice bonus to be able to heal, and it's got like a biscuit ability you can take. I really recommend for new beginners. You can use it 3 times, and I think it gives you 25% of your max HP back. They also start with 3 bear traps, which you can put in doorways to kite enemies back through. You can step in your own traps, so make sure you don't step on them. But you can kite enemies back through, and if they're chasing you, they'll land in them and it lines you up for easy headshots. The next ability I recommend with the Ranger is it has a triple shot ability where you nook 3 arrows and then you can release them. It's great for shooting warriors or berserkers or really anything that's coming up to you. The Ranger is in the mid-tier. The reason I say it's in mid-tier because it doesn't have access to a shield, so it can't block. So you do have to know the sort of ranges of the enemies that you're fighting. And then further on top of that, it's a ranged class. So people run at you, or if you get caught out of position, you're going to melt. You are going to melt quite quickly. And you need to be able to hit your arrows. Headshots are a must, because that's how you do your damage. Sorry about that. Moving on to the next mid-tier class, I'm going to put my favourite class here. The Berserker. Well, no, sorry, not the Berserker, the Barbarian. But he plays like a Berserker. If you like two-handed weapons, very little armour, a bunch of perks that specialise you in being able to smash through doors, deal more damage the more health you take, this is the class for you. I absolutely love it. I love the two-handed weapons. But let's go on to more of the reasons why I think he's more of a mid-tier class. In difficulty. The scale's going on difficulty, not on how good the classes are. I think all the classes are quite good in the game. I don't think any of them are a bit lacklustre. So, a big thing with the Berserker, as you can see there in the video, it's lined up quite nicely there, you are quite short-ranged. So you really, if you miss, you've got a really slow animation. You're hulking this big weapon. There's a big animation of you pulling the weapon back around, pulling it back up for a second swing. So that's a difficult with the Berserker. You can get caught. If you're just randomly spamming that clicking mouse button, thinking, right, I'll just spam hit them, it's not great. People are going to block it if they've got a shield, or other classes are just going to try and kite you, and if you miss, they'll attack you once you've swung. So why wouldn't I have this class at a more harder scale? Because in my opinion, my humble opinion, the class really does do well. It's not got any ranged, so you don't have to worry about that. You've got abilities that make you deal more damage, or reduce the damage of other people, or make you move faster at the detriment of defense. So if you will read these abilities, the vast majority will tell them that you are stronger or you do move faster, but you have lost defense. This class is not overly tanky, although it does have quite a bit of HP, but you're not really stacking much armour. A couple of headshots from an archer and you're pretty much done for. So as you can see in the clip there, you get to break the door down. But it really is a game of swing at them. You can see if you miss, You don't want to get caught because then you're going to have to swing it back round. There's 2 moves to each heavy weapon, or every weapon in the game. Sort of light and heavies. But moving on further from this, what do I think? These are the harder classes in my opinion. These are the classes that I would say stand out to me as the 2 most difficult. One being the Rogue. The Rogue I didn't get massive experience on, but I have played about 10 levels up on it or so. The Rogue suffers from an issue in the basis that it's very close ranged with its daggers and its rapier. It only has throwing knives as a ranged weapon, which isn't great. It has a bunch of abilities, which means it can deal with sort of throwing smoke bombs, throwing spikes on the floor. It's really quite a sneaky ninja class. If that's you to a T, you like the sneaky things, that's the class for you. It has one of the best talents, I was going to call it then. Perks, and the fact that you can lockpick chests that need lockpicking. It makes taking a rogue in your party quite helpful. It is a very popular class as well with the ranger, so you'll normally have no issue trying to find one. But the difficulty for me in the rogue is that it is kind of awkward to team fight with. Because if there is 3 of you aiming to fight, the barbarian can be bad enough because you've got to be careful where you swing. You don't want to catch your teammates. You know, it's always friendly fires on. But the rogue sort of has to nip in and out because it doesn't really want to stand in the fight and get hit back because they've got no HP. They sort of want to sneak in, do their damage, use their abilities, their poisons, everything like that, and then back out of it. So this can make them a bit awkward because they're trying to dodge around. You know, if you've got wizards or you've got sort of rangers or even warriors and you're swinging, it's very easy to catch a rogue. And if you catch your rogue, you're going to do a lot of damage to him. The class doesn't begin with any form of healing, so you have to bring potions and bandages every time because it's going to take damage, sadly. It has got some very nice perks in the fact that it can detect traps, disarm traps, loads of smokes, loads of mobility. It really does do well as your sort of hit and run assassin class. Absolutely amazing in 1v1s on the 1v1 Goblin Cave map that they're experimenting with at the moment, but not so beneficial in team fighting in my opinion. I've had numerous level 20 rogues on my team, and they always seem to get nicked by little things here and there, and then they just get one shot by one of the enemy players. So last but not least, let's talk about the wizard. I leveled up my wizard to about level 10 as well. The only character that I got to level 20 was my berserker. I enjoyed it the most. But the wizard played really quite different than what I expected. It's quite confusing going in because it basically tells you've got 5 spells, multiple casts of them, which you can recharge them using a skill which you meditate. Takes you out the fight for a little bit, but as long as you sit and someone's guarding you, you're fine, and it sort of regenerates some of your abilities back. What the game doesn't really do well to sort of tell you is if you go into class, you have access to all the spells straight away, and each different spell costs a different amount of sort of tier points. And using those tier points, you then have to sort of decide what you're going to take, because the wizard has some supporting utility type spells. Haste, obviously, which speeds your teammates up, increases attack speed, stuff like that. And there's an invisibility spell which makes your teammate invisible for a little bit, speeding them up with movement speed. Really can be both quite handy in a team fight. But the wizard also has some big DPS. One of my personal favourites, Chain Lightning, deals a load of damage, and you know, if you're close ranging, it does arc to their teammates as well. But as I warned to you earlier about the friendly fire, the Chain Lightning will bounce off you if you're too close, and it will also hit your teammates. So Chain Lightning's a good one to hit the enemy team if they're a little bit further away. Fireball, a great spell, but you sort of only want to use it again far away because the blast radius is quite huge on it and it will friendly fire teammates. You've got a Lightning Strike spell. I didn't manage to use this to the best of my ability. I weren't the best wizard, I'm not going to lie to you. But you know, sort of going from there, I did learn that it had a lot of damage. I got some really good wizards on my team that showed me what they could do. And sort of weapon-wise with a wizard, it has some really nice weapons. You know, if you've played Vermintide, stuff like that, you know that wizards, magic users normally get a couple of staffs and they're thrown in the corner and left to their own devices. This game has given them access to staffs, it's given them access to magic orbs, to books, to everything along the lines of that. And they've also got access to some sort of like melee weaponry in the form of like a quarterstaff, and they've also got access to a crystal sword, I believe it's called. But it really does excel at being sort of like a long-range team nuker. One thing to warn about, this is why I put this class really quite high in difficulty. You've got to always be careful where your teammates are. You've got to be careful where the enemy is. You've always got to bring your own healing and your own potions, because you only start with one toughness potion. I'm going to call it toughness even though it's like a shielding system. You only start with one of those, and you start with no bandages, no health potions, so you've got to bring those along yourself. And you are extremely squishy. One of the squishiest classes. That finishes it up here on my sort of opinion. So I'd say the easiest classes for beginners is you're looking at sort of the warrior, which is called the fighter, sorry, and the ranger. No, sorry, the warrior and the cleric, due to the healing, the shielding. The medium difficulty I'd put as the ranger and the barbarian. And then the harder difficulty I'd put as wizard and also rogue, just because they're that little bit squishier and it's hard for them to fit in and try and find and do the right thing. Right, thank you for watching, guys. This has been Oddly Unorthodox. There'll be another video up soon explaining my opinions on the actual gameplay standpoint, what they could have done better, and just my general opinion. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Cheers.